Hello and welcome to today's webinar, and a warm welcome to everybody. We acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the many lands on which we work and pay respects to Indigenous elders past and present, and acknowledge their continuing connection to land, water, and community. I'm Brett Osmond, the editor of Compass, and this webinar is brought to you by compass.info and Elder Abuse Action Australia, EAAA. Now, today we're talking about the true cost of retirement village living. And I'm really pleased and very grateful to have a special guest joining us today, Roger Pallant. Roger, welcome. Roger is the president of the New South Wales Retirement Village Residents Association. So he is an incredibly experienced and knowledgeable person. And although he is a representative of New South Wales, has worked with and is very familiar with the laws, contracts, conditions, and issues relating to retirement village living around Australia. Now, I did want to highlight compass.info. We have a housing and accommodation section dedicated on the site. We've got quite a few very good and informative articles on issues relating to housing and accommodation, particularly a few on retirement village living. And I would like to draw your attention to that page. It's featured on the homepage of Compass today, down the bottom of the page. But when you click on it, there'll be a resources section. And I did want to highlight some videos that the New South Wales Retirement Village Residents Association have produced. They're 7 minutes each. There's 3 of them. They are really highly recommended. There's one on the costs of entering a retirement village, one costs associated with everyday living, and then another on the costs of exiting. Now, we will be essentially breaking our conversation up into those 3 sections. But Roger, I thought we'd start by asking you if you could give us a quick overview of the retirement village market and some of the trends that you are seeing.
Yeah, thank you, Brett, and thank you for having us. The market, what we are seeing is that what was happening 5 years ago is totally different today, and what it'll look like in 5 years' time will be totally different again. There's a huge shift in retirement village, and this word independence living is starting to be something that's a misnomer now. The pressure on operators and people living in retirement villages to stay in the village as long as they can from government is quite immense. The supported home program that's just come out is wanting residents to stay in their home as long as they can because there are no places available for them in aged care facilities. The government says they have to build an aged care facility every 3 days to keep up with the demand. So that pressure is to keep us in our homes, and we are living longer. Therefore, it's putting a lot of pressure on operators to provide services and facilities and supported home to keep us in our homes longer. So there's going to be a shift in terms of the model, the contract models that people will enter into, and the services that we are available within a retirement village. And I do know that 50 or 60% of operators are now supported home providers. So they are looking at that space and they're starting that work now. So in 5 years' time, it's going to be different. And the contracts that are coming out will reflect that new model.
Great, thank you. Look, a question that I've got to sort of kick off is, when you buy into a retirement village, what are you actually buying?
Great question. And we've actually surveyed over 4,500 people in Australia with the help of our other national RVRAs and asked them exactly that question. And the answer is you are not buying into a retirement village as an investment opportunity. If you You're buying into a retirement village for a lifestyle opportunity. So when you buy into a retirement village, you're going into a village that provides you with safety and security. You're surrounded by like-minded people. You have access to a whole heap of facilities that are at your doorstep and not shared with the public community, just with the residents within that village. And you don't have to do the gardening. You don't have to do the cleaning up of the premises. So all of those things we did, someone else will do that for you. So in my view, moving into retirement villages is an excellent choice at an age. The problem is a lot of people are moving in at a later age. So I think the average age moving in is 78. The average age of people in a retirement village in Australia is 82. And therefore, I think, in my view, they're moving in too late.
Right. Yeah. So you said something to me earlier, which is, buying into a retirement village is not an investment opportunity. It's a lifestyle opportunity.
Correct.
And so that is a very important distinction, isn't it?
It's a huge distinction because only 1% of people in our survey said they were moved in because of an investment opportunity. Right? So people our age are not silly. We are well informed, we're educated, we're able to make informed decisions. And therefore, moving into a retirement village, people will quickly understand that there may be capital gain. You may make some money out of your village and you may not. But you don't move in because of those financial factors. You move in because you're going to have a quality of life, peace of mind, and are surrounded by like-minded people.
Great. Now we will get to some questions that are starting to come through, but I wanted to ask you, I guess from the get-go, that the most important thing when you're thinking about entering a retirement village is the contract itself. Now, what advice would you give to people regarding their understanding of a contract, the things that are typically included in a contract? What what should people be looking very carefully at?
Okay, so this is the most important phase of the whole journey. And it's the issue that comes up from our members and from around Australia at the end of the journey because they've failed to understand what they've signed for. And often that concern comes from the children who don't understand what mum and dad have signed for. So this is the
Mhm.
most important part of the process. Now, in all states, I believe in all states, there is a disclosure document. Now, the disclosure document is a simplified version and is provided to the incoming resident, potential resident, prior to getting the contract or signing the contract. Now, this disclosure document will have a whole heap of information that's relevant. What are you paying? What are your weekly fees? What are the exit fees? And all those sorts of things. All of the prime things you need to make a decision. When you get the contract, there shouldn't be any surprises in it.
Mhm.
However, in the contract, there'll be additional items like village rules. And village rules will spell out, can I have pets? Can I have visitors? Can I leave my caravan outside the house? Simple things like that. And every contract has different village rules, and sometimes different villages have different rules. So our advice is always get professional help so that when you sign, and I see going into a retirement village like a honeymoon. You're going into a new venture and you go in and you look around and say, wow, look at that. They've got a pool, they've got tennis courts, they have happy hour, they've got all these wonderful things. And you soon forget what's in the contract. You put it away and 10, 15 years later when you drag it out, say, why am I paying an exit fee? All right, so people do forget, they don't remember, and it's important that everybody understands and reviews their contract on a regular basis.
Okay. And we might go, thank you. We might go to some questions that are coming through. We've got one from Gianfranco. I'd like to know more about the cost of leaving a retirement village. Now, we will get to that, so we might just park
Yeah.
that question, but we will come back to it because it's a very, very important one.
Yeah.
We've got a question here from Sarah Fisher. Are 99-year leases still a thing? Or were they ever
Absolutely.
a thing in retirement villages?
No, they are a thing, and they're
Yep.
typically in lease. They're typically in leasehold villages, and I won't get too technical, but a 99-year lease means that you are a registered interest holder. If you have a 50-year lease, then you're not a registered interest holder, and that provides you with some certainty. But 99-year leases in mainly leasehold, and they are 56% of the contracts that are going around.
Right, right. Okay. Now, we will get to exit fees because they are a really big thing. But what is, what are some of the new pricing models that we're
Yes.
seeing in retirement villages?
Okay. And because there is a bit of fear about exit fees and not understanding them, and because they're a big hit at the end of somebody's life, and
Yes.
typically there's the children who will have to pay that, or that will come out of the fees that their parents are being paid. They don't understand it, and it could be anything from $200,000, $300,000 in some cases,
Right.
and it could be a lot more. Right? So basically, those fees are the reason they have a deferred management fee is to keep the incoming price down. So if
And is
the
that, sorry, just to
operators
interrupt you there, is a deferred management fee essentially the exit
or
cost?
exit fee, they're the same
Right.
things. Some
Yep.
people call it deferred management fee. Some people call it exit
Great.
fees.
Thank
It's
you.
it's the money you pay when you leave the village
Yep.
to the operator. And it's important to note that the operator makes no money out of us while we're living in the village.
Right.
All of our recurrent charges or weekly fees or service fees go into running the village, and it's a budget, and that's residents' money. So operators don't have access to that. They only get their money to refresh or renew or refurbish stuff when we leave. Now,
Right.
with the new modelling, because of the concern about the exit fee, with the new modelling, they're saying no exit fee. All right, so
Right.
this is an option, by the way. You can still
Are
go
these
either
being
way.
introduced? No,
These
no
are being
exit fees.
introduced right now. Right now,
Right.
I know some of the major operators throughout Australia are introducing these right now for new incoming residents. So that's an option people can take.
Right. But there
But
must
you've got to
be
be really
greater
careful.
entry costs.
Sorry, that
There must be greater costs somewhere else.
there is, because we have to remember, uh, you've got to look at these sums, because often the pricing depends on the longevity, how long you stay in the village. Right? So and also it can often involve what your capital gains is as well. So there's a
Right.
lot of financial issues people need to take into account. The new modelling isn't a better model, it's a different way of doing it. And
Right.
you will pay more up cost fronts, and you may pay more weekly service fees. Right? So,
Right.
and if I can put a personal view on it, I'm in favour of the deferred management fee, the exit fee, because that means I've got more money to spend while I'm alive, and my kids get less.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sorry, kids. I hope you're not watching this, but you will get less. So for me, I've got more accessible income.
Disposable income.
That's right. That's correct.
Right.
So, but
Um,
that's a choice. And again, I just say to people, weigh up that choice carefully, but get legal help so they
yeah.
spell out what it is, the different models.
Now, we've got a question here from Patu. Um, who do you get to check the contract? I mean, I guess a lawyer. Are there specialist services?
Yeah,
What kind of
yeah.
assistance can people find?
Well, and I'll talk about New South Wales because I'm not sure about the rest of it, but throughout New South Wales, there are specialist lawyers. Some conveyancers do it, but they're looking at different things. A lawyer will look at the actual conditions of the agreement that you're signing and point them out to you. There
Yep.
are quite a number of lawyers that we refer people to throughout Australia, and we would say, do your due diligence, get it checked over, understand exactly what you're signing up for.
Great. Now, I thought I will mention that when we send out a link to the video, we'll also send a link to each of the retirement village associations around
Thank you.
Australia so that you can go to them as a resource. Look, I would also suggest that community legal centres could also be a port of call. And also there are other services such as legal aid in each of the states and territories. All of the details of those institutions are available on Compass as well, and we'll try and include them in the newsletter to you after this event. Now, can I ask you, look, are there any other considerations when you are entering a village? You highlighted the issue that, sometimes it's the beneficiaries of somebody's estate, should they pass away whilst they're living in a retirement village, they can get surprised. Do you encourage people to sit down with their families, with their friends, with the people
100%.
that are close to them, so that they can be fully all on the same page, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Yep.
absolutely do that. And I think this is only available in New South Wales under our legislation, in that residents can meet with the manager once a year for a contract information session. Right.
Yep.
So, and they can take their family along, and we encourage them to do that, so that the manager will spell out, here's what we think your house is worth, this is what we think you have to pay, this is whatever, we need to do this. So people know beforehand. This young couple I'm helping in my village, they did not have a clue. And that's understandable. But it's really important that if you're a resident living in retirement, reach out to your family or whoever it is and make sure they know your contract and what you've signed up for. That
Yep.
is a legally binding document.
Yeah. Very
Hard to
good.
get out of.
Now, we've had a great comment here from Martin Le Marchant, who says, for a retirement village contract, the best advice is usually to have it reviewed, and he's given some details, but definitely by a solicitor with retirement village experience. And I guess that is probably a really salient point. So thank you, Martin. And
And that's sorry, but butting
yeah,
in. I know Martin. Hello, Martin. But he's absolutely right, and that's our advice as well. You can get people looking at it who think they know what they're doing, unless they're specialised in retirement village living and contracts. You're probably not going to get the best advice you can get.
yeah. Thank you. That's really, really important. We've got a question here from Brian McBride. Should operators be allowed to offer levies fixed for life to some prospective residents, but not to all? This complicates effects on budgets for others. And Brian is making a statement. He believes it should not be allowed. Do you have a position?
I do. And here's the issue with retirement village living in Australia. There are so many different contracts, and you can have a village, in particular my village has got 4 different contracts.
Right.
And each of those contracts have different conditions. But that's what the residents signed up for at that time. Right? Most operators, as they refresh the village, they will go to one standard contract. And remembering that a lot of villages are bought and sold. So, and under the legislation, the new operator must abide by the old contract, even if they have, in their view, a better one. So that, again, is a legal issue. Once you've signed that, that's what the conditions are.
Right. Yeah. No, interesting. One here from another attendee. Are there requirements for accommodation to be listed as independent living unit, or specifically for 65s and older?
Well, 55 and over, mostly.
It's 55 and over.
55 and over, you'll see.
Right.
But some villages, I know some villages have got 75 and over.
Right.
That's their call, right? That's the operator's call to how they market it, to what audience or what target market they want to go to.
Yeah.
But in New South Wales and in a few other states, there's a registry of retirement villages. So you can get on and have a look at what retirement villages are registered, and et cetera, et cetera. Also, if you go to villages.com, it will list all of the retirement villages in each state, and it will tell you how many independent living units there are, how many assisted living units there are, whether or not they have an aged care part to it. So that's always a good source for people who are looking to go into a village. Have a look at it. It'll often give you the operator's name, and therefore you can do research on the operator. It will also give you information about pricing, what the pricing on some of the villas are at the time.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. We've got some more questions, but I wanted to jump quickly into once you're inside and you're living in a retirement village, there are day-to-day, year-to-year costs.
Yeah.
Can you explain some of the typical costs associated with just being in a retirement village?
Well, the main cost is your weekly, fortnightly, monthly fees, and we call it recurrent fees. It could be a service fee. Different people call it different things, but that's the residents' contribution to running the village for that year, and that's where the budget comes from. So the residents put the money in, the budget framed, and hopefully that there's enough money in to get all the things done. So
Yeah,
that's the main cost. So nearly every resident will pay that. The other added charges while in a village, some villages charge car parking fees or
right.
garage fees. Our village, if you've got a motorhome or a caravan, you can store it in a secure area, but you will pay for that. So there's some user pays system going on, but generally the major cost is the recurrent charges or the service fee.
Right. Can you explain what a capital works fund is and how
Oh,
it
yeah,
operates in a retirement village?
I can if you've got about 2 hours. But capital works funds are different throughout different states, and again, without picking on New South Wales, it's the most heavily mandated part of capital works fund. Capital works fund is it can happen in different ways. It can
Mhm.
be included in a budget, and it's usually for forecasting capital maintenance that's due to be done. So it's put aside. It can be in the budget, and therefore the residents will approve the budget with that amount in it to do those certain things. In some cases, and like in my village, it's not in our budget, it's a surplus. So it's money that's not spent during the year, and that's gone into an account, and it's residents' money, and it can only be used by residents' consent. But
Right.
some people call capital works fund a sinking fund or a future maintenance fund or something like that.
Right.
But it's not strong in the other states of Australia. Very strong in New South Wales, but not very strong and not very heavily legislated in other states.
Okay. Now we'll jump to a question here from Jennifer Langton. Can you give an example of a circumstance where a resident can be asked to leave the village due to declining health or ability to live independently?
And thank you, Jennifer, and I know who you are. This is a really, really difficult question, and it's quite topical at the moment because I'm involved in a couple of cases right now. Um, if usually the best way to do it, like you will get people coming into a village who are fine. 5 years later, they've got dementia or they've got something else going on, right? If they've got a carer, that's fine. But in certain cases where they don't have a carer, it's very difficult for a operator to get somebody out of the village without going through some due legal process. The best way to do it, the most common way to do it, is to get the family involved and say, listen, I think mum and dad should be better off and it's safer somewhere else. That's happened in my village. Mum and dad, there should be somewhere else. And, and it becomes quite apparent when a person gets to that stage, and all the residents tend to know what's going on. But it's a really, really difficult. And I know of a circumstance where the kid said, no, you look after her. And
Yeah.
that's not what retirement living is about. Residents tend to become the first responders for any issues within the village, particularly after hours. And that's an onus, but it's something we do because, it's our community spirit.
Interesting. Good question. Um, uh, there's a detailed response there from one of the attendees to Jennifer's question, but I'll jump to
Yep.
which everyone can read. I'll jump to Lisa Williams' question. She's saying, I have no volume. I am unsure why we can receive a copy of the recording afterwards. Yes, Lisa, you will get a copy of the recording afterwards. Um, Now, we've got another question. or we've got a question basically, I think, about doing the same for the federal government support at home program. We probably don't have time within this, but I think that's an excellent suggestion. Um, Now, we've got a question. I'll come back to Brian's question, but a question from Kenneth Millard. When it comes to the annual budget process, can the Residents Committee or Finance Subcommittee request to review any tenders, quotes, contracts for the village services by subcontractors? It's a very good question.
And it's a question that, thank you, Ken, and I know who Ken is. That question's been going around for some time. If it's in a budget and it's a proposed item of expense, then yes, the Residents Committee is entitled to see quotes, but not necessarily quotes of subcontractors if they're coming through a major contractor. So there might be a major contractor doing some works, and they might employ 5 different contractors. You may not get access to that information, but you should get access to the original contractor's quotes, all the 3 quotes for that position.
Right,
Job.
right. Yes. In my research for today's conversation, watched an ABC report. I believe it may have been a Four Corners report on retirement village living. And they did raise some issues around vertical integration of some supply channels, that the operator is also connected with the builder or the people who repair. So I guess having as much oversight or ability to understand who contractors are is very important for residents.
It is, but we're coming from an issue of trust, I guess.
Yeah.
And if we could spend our whole life as residents chasing down rabbit holes trying to find issues with everything that goes on. And the building the relationship with the manager and the operator is critical to the success of a really good run village.
Yeah.
And the Residents Committee plays an extremely important role in that. So that relationship is seriously important between them, so that the trust is there and the transparency is there. Usually these issues happen when that trust or transparency is eroded in some way.
Okay. Yeah. Good answer. Frank Collins asks, when is it the operator's responsibility to maintain capital items? I guess, who decides, oh, we really do need to repair the roof of the common area, or the, the other kind of aspects of the built environment?
Yeah, good question, Frank, and I know who you are too. But and these are not Dorothy Dix questions, I hope. But there's always an ongoing issue about replacement versus repair. Now, only in New South Wales, I believe, there's an asset management plan which puts an effective life on items of capital. And once they reach that item of capital, the operator should replace it, not repair it. Now, we know that in some circumstances, operators will keep repairing because that's at residents' cost. So there's a balance between the cost of repairing and ongoing towards just change the pump, buy a new pump because it's past its due life.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's an ongoing. It's a grey area, and you'll get one person saying this thing and another person saying that thing.
Right. I'll go to some other items associated with living in a retirement village, but a great question here. I'm slightly off topic, but I think an important one. One of the biggest shocks this person has supported clients through is that living in a retirement village does not automatically mean a place in the attached aged care facility. Now, can you speak a little bit to this? I mean,
Yeah,
Jennifer has jumped in as well, but
yeah. Well, retirement villages are state legislation. Aged care is federal. So they're different. They're not at cross purposes, but there's no guarantee if you're in a village that has an aged care component, you will get a place there. No guarantee. However, people will make allowances or try to get that person in there, some easy transition, but it doesn't always work out that way. So there is no guarantee.
Mm-hmm. Can I just, while we're on the everyday costs, you've mentioned an asset management plan.
Yeah.
What about if you want to make changes to your retirement village unit whilst you're living
Yeah.
there? Who pays for that? How is that done?
Well, yeah, and this is available in every state. So when you move into a premises, you have a condition report saying this is what you pay for. Now, say I want to put a gazebo out the back or something, an enclosed space on my decking. I can do that with operator approval, and I will pay that.
Right.
Right? And I will pay that, and I will enjoy that benefit for as long as I'm living in that complex. So that's something that pretty much every retirement village is able to do with approval. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't get approval, then other things will happen because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
may get you to take it down at your cost.
yeah.
So it's always good to get approval.
Right. Wonderful. Are there any other typical costs that you can expect just from, month to month, year to year, whilst you're living in a retirement village?
Not that I can think of. The other costs is if you want to join one of the social committees or you want to go to
Yep.
the parties and that sort of thing, but not directly with the operator. I
Okay.
can't think of too many others, no. But
Okay.
they will be specified in your contract.
Yep.
They will be outlined for you what you're going to pay for,
In the contract.
yeah, in the
Yep.
contract.
Yeah, we keep coming. Very important for everybody
Completely.
to fully
Everybody.
understand. I know contracts can be very long and complex, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
legal speak, which I guess comes back to making sure you do seek independent legal advice. We've got a great question here from Vanessa Richardson. How do disputes between management and managers uh, come about? Is there an agreed process for dispute resolution?
There is. And every operator has to have a dispute resolution process. Now, they're words on paper. The practice is often more difficult. And
Hmm.
I've been involved in a dispute between a resident and a village manager recently, and it's a difficult situation. It's very difficult. I also run training on the Property Council Academy, and
Hmm.
I say to managers, don't get involved in resident on residence disputes unless that resident or resident dispute is having an impact on the village or is putting somebody at safety health at risk. Right? So because
Hmm.
there are disputes going on in villages every day.
Yeah.
And if you look at we did a psychological abuse aging with our fear report, 70% of elder abuse or psychological abuse in retirement villages, resident on resident.
Mm.
So they're the majority of disputes.
Now, that's a very interesting topic, and I just wanted to flag today, whilst we are talking specifically about the costs of living in a
Yeah,
retirement village, there are many aspects to day-to-day life in a retirement village. And elder abuse is obviously the focus of Compass and finding ways to help people better understand, prevent, and respond to abuse. So I can really see us following up with another
yeah.
webinar about that. So we will explore some of these other topics and just what life is like day to day in a retirement village. So we've got another question before we go to, I guess, one of the biggest areas, which is the exit costs
Right.
and things around exit costs. I did want to jump in to a question here from Jean Lynch. What about elder mediation to resolve resident and management disputes? Is that a kind of framework that is readily accessed?
It's a difficult one. I do know an operator has put millions of dollars aside to provide mediation sessions for residents on residents.
Hmm.
That's one operator. Well, very few of the others are thinking that way. However, getting a mediator involved, I know quite a few professional mediators, and I've reached out to them, is quite expensive. So who pays for that? So if the operator thinks the resident's at fault, they want the resident to pay it. If the resident thinks the operator's fault, they want the operator to pay it. And it usually ends up, it doesn't happen. And I know
Yeah.
quite a few cases where mediation would have been excellent, but it never happened. The issue
Yes, because of the
remains,
cost, money.
yeah,
Yeah.
because of the cost.
Yeah. I'll quickly jump into another question from Frank. Do you, Roger, recommend training for resident committee members?
Oh, 100%. In
Yeah.
fact, I'll just quickly say strata committees are going to have to be legislated to do mandatory training. I think that
Yep.
should be the case throughout Australia for residents committees. They play a very important role. They can make a village happy or they can make it sad. And
Hmm.
often they make it sad because of lack of knowledge and information. We run residents committees training. We're funded by Fair Trading New South Wales to run that residents committee training, and we've run about 20, 25 of those now. Some at operators' requests, some at residents' requests. We've run joint ones for operators where they've trucked in people from all over to do a community session, and we're doing another one in next month down in the Central Coast. So
Right.
yes, I do. That should be mandatory. The problem is make it mandatory. No one will go on it because getting people on residents committees is difficult.
Yes, yes. I have just returned from the Australian Elder Abuse Conference that was run by Elder Abuse Action Australia and supported by Caxton Community Legal Centre and ADA Australia. And there were representatives from the South Australian Retirement Village Association, SAVRA, and it was very interesting talking to them. Whilst I do see potentially us doing another event with representatives from other states and territories to explore some
Yep.
other issues. Do stay connected with Compass because we will be continuing to talk about topics related to retirement village living. And the best way of staying connected about those events is to sign up to our newsletter, which you can do on the website. Now, I just wanted to pivot now to the big topic of exit fees. And this is where I guess the fees are quite critical because they're larger in nature, and you've already highlighted that this is where retirement village operators actually make a profit. But what are some of the typical fees, types of levels you can expect? I know they vary from contract to contract, but what are some of the scenarios?
Well, the most common one is that there's a percentage, and the most common one is 35% on the incoming price. So the price that you purchased that villa for. And then some of them have the exit fee on the sale price. So they
Right.
can do different ways. So there's
Right.
really different ways of doing it. And if you
And
have
that's a big
the,
distinction because if you
oh,
haven't been
huge.
living in a retirement village for a while, the price you paid for the opportunity to live there and the exit fee, I know you've mentioned they're not investment opportunities, but there could have been some appreciation there. And so that is something to be very careful about reading in your contract.
Well, the stats show that Retirement Living Council census stats shows that the median price of retirement village houses is going up.
Right.
So that means people are gaining capital gain on the price that they paid. So the other thing to factor into the exit fee is if the exit fee is on the sale price, then there can't be any capital gain sharing
Yeah.
because
Are
that
you
would begin.
seeing, yeah, that's very, are you seeing enough supply of retirement villages? I mean, I think about my own age. I'm 58, 59, I should say. I just turned 59. But when I know that by the time I'm in my 80s, there'll almost be double the amount of people.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, are we doing enough to create enough supply?
There's a huge shortage right now. I think the occupancy rate throughout Australia is around 97%.
Right.
So in my village, a village will take a week to sell. We've got
Yep.
400, we've got 330 villas, and they're very popular, mainly because we live near Byron Bay, I think. But so the sale prices, regional Australia is often different because
Hmm.
the turnovers are slower.
Yeah.
But The operators are trying to build. The problem is they're hitting their brick head against, or the head against the brick wall called councils who are
Right.
not approving. Take 2 or 3 years to approve a retirement village built. And
Yeah.
retirement villages is part of the affordable housing solution. The government says that us baby boomers, we're the problem. We're rich, we're lazy, we're selfish, and we're holding up, we're living in these huge houses that our kids should be living in, and we need to free up the market. Well, retirement living is part of that solution. And
Mm.
it wasn't until the middle of last year where the federal government actually acknowledged that.
Yeah, yeah. There was one particular statement at the conference last week where one of the speakers said that they really objected to the term a family home. It's your home. What you decide to do with it is your business. But I take your point. Um, can you talk a little bit about capital gains
Yeah,
and how that
yeah.
is treated within a retirement village scenario?
Well, different across different states, but capital gain is basically the difference between what you paid and what you sell it for,
Hmm.
and less than the outgoing thing. So in some cases, some contracts have, well, and the majority of contracts have that people keep all of the capital gain. So if your house goes up 200,000, you get the 200. Some of them in New South Wales, it's legislated that the operator can have a contract which is a 50-50 share.
Hmm.
I do know some contracts where 100% of the capital gain goes to the operator.
Right.
So again, it
Well,
is
lots of
seriously
variation.
important. Lots of variations. There's no rule.
Yeah.
So again, it's very important to read your contract,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
contract will specify how capital gain is treated and if it's shared or whatever. So
Can
it's
we
really
talk a little
important.
bit now about the reality of selling
Yeah.
your share, your retirement village unit? There would be costs associated with getting your unit ready to sell. I'd like to break this question up into two parts. I mean, who determines how much renovation or work needs to be done to get your apartment ready for sale? And then who pays for it?
Yeah. So now, again, this is different from state to state. And if you talk about refurbishment, upgrading the unit to a more modern style, in New South Wales, that's the operator cost. But
Yeah.
in other states, it's different. If you talk about reinstatement, so most contracts will say you need to leave that unit in the condition that you entered it to. If you
Yes.
put holes in the wall or you bash something there or you damage that, the resident will be responsible for fixing that. In most states, and this is really important, and I'm doing this with this young family here, they meet with the manager and a condition report is agreed upon.
Hmm.
Agreed upon. And then in most states, the way that's fixed can be either you use the operator or the manager's contacts, or you engage your own.
Right.
But at the
Yeah,
end of
because
the
there's
day,
normal wear and tear,
yeah,
but this is about sitting down and agreeing what
yeah,
needs to be done.
yeah. If you put burn marks in the carpet,
Yeah.
you will pay for to replace that carpet.
Okay, great. Another question here. What happens to your unit when you die? I mean, I guess that's one of the ways people exit a
Well,
retirement
no,
village.
75% of people who leave a retirement village either die or go into aged care.
Right. And so
Now
your
that's
will
70.
kicks in.
Yeah. So basically, they'll have a will, and usually the executors of the will or the estate will take over that negotiation
Hmm.
with the manager of the village. And this is quite common. This is happening every day in a village somewhere.
Hmm.
People like the people I'm talking about here. Mum died suddenly last week. Dad's in Bupa with dementia. The kids are now trying to work out how to do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and I've
So
been helping them, but in some villages, there's no one to help them.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, challenging situation for everyone
Very
involved.
challenging and traumatic and stressful.
Yeah, yeah. And decisions need to be made rather quickly too.
Well, as quickly, and I'll say to this, as quickly as the dependents want it to be. Right? There's no
Right, okay.
rush.
Right.
The only
You
rush
can
is if you
continue,
want
but
your
you're
money.
still responsible for paying the
Correct.
monthly
You will
fees.
pay, correct. And I noticed a question about the recurrent charges cap. The you will keep the dependents will keep paying the weekly fees, monthly fees until that villa is vacated. Now, vacated means handing back the keys. There's nothing there. You've got no need to go. You've handed over the responsibility to the manager. Now, only in New South Wales, that cap will extend for 42 days maximum. However, if the house is sold in 30 days, then it's 30 days. But that's not available in most other states.
Right. Okay. That's an interesting distinction. We've got a
Mm.
question here from B Van. Are capital gains charged before or after the exit fees are paid? They're sort of part of the
Well, it's the same
it's part
formula.
of the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the same thing. If your capital gain is 500,000 and your exit three is 200,000, you'll get 300,000.
Yeah. It's all part of the same. But yeah,
It's
it's all
part of the
part of
same
the same
company.
negotiation. Can
Yeah.
I ask you about what happens if the unit doesn't sell?
This is a really, really good question. And again, different states deal with this in different ways. I'll keep using New South Wales. If you're in metropolitan area and it doesn't sell for 6 months, you can ask to get your money. If you're
Right.
in if you're in a rural area, then it's 12 months. Right?
Mhm.
But in other states it's different. And I do know of some villas in some remote areas that haven't sold for 12, 18 months.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, you've highlighted the fact that there's a lot of demand in the metropolitan areas, but that may not be the case in regional and remote Australia. Uh,
It's not far behind. The difference is not a lot.
right. Okay.
Right?
Interesting.
Because most people who, no, I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people who want to go into a retirement village want to stay in their local area
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're used to it. They've got friends there, they've got a doctor there, they've got, the bowls club down the road. So they want to stay locally. They just want to downsize so they don't have to get on the ride on mower for 2 hours or pick up trees and things like that or clean the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. And and Australians are one of the most biggest owners of homes. I think only 10% of Australians live in apartments. Most of us live in houses.
Yep.
And so, yes, I guess there are decisions around maintenance and capability and capacity and wanting to change your lifestyle. So, all very important decisions as part of whether a retirement village is suitable for you or not. Um, can I ask you about special aged care provisions?
Yeah, you can. But again, this is only in New South Wales.
Right. Okay.
So, and this is, and the thing that's happening with national legislation is that I know Victoria's just gone through a big reform. South Australia last year, our new regulation came out last year. States are looking at other states to see what are the best practices. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had one national retirement village act?
Right.
And everybody, because we've got operators that are across borders and it's so complex for them and confusing for them because contractual arrangements are different. So in New South Wales, that and it only works if there's one person in a house, and a lot of people living in retirement villages are single women. We've got 160 single women living here. If one of them needed to go into a nursing home, pretty much straight away, they can ask for 85% of the agreed price of the house before it sells to move into that nursing home, so that they got somewhere to go and they're looked after. And then the sale of the house and the contract stuff will look after itself.
Right.
But
And
keep
that's not
keep
available in every state and territory.
definitely no, it isn't.
No. Okay.
So
So
again, these
harmonization's a big challenge, and I guess part of
excuse
the
me,
advocacy that your association and others are, you know,
it's not going to happen.
it's not
Look,
going to
it's
happen.
it's it's a wishful thinking thing, but every state, like when the occupational health and safety harmonisation came on, all the states were on board except Victoria said we do better, so they didn't join in. So you'll get states not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen in my lifetime. There's
Yeah.
no appetite to do it.
No. Okay. Well, that's a good reality check too. So, that complexity, we see that in many different aspects of Australian life. Enduring powers of attorney is another one. But jumping in quickly, Jennifer has another question. She asked, Roger, can you explain the arrangement for villagers to pay the aged care room costs and how that impacts exit entitlements?
Excuse me. Very good question. There is, depending on the circumstance of the person, there is an arrangement entered into with that person or their dependents, their powers of attorney or whoever, about how that works. Basically, the emphasis is get that person in a home so they're looked up safely. And then the negotiation happens about how that happens. In terms of the actual payments, I'm not 100% sure. I hope I'm never going to have to use it because I'm going straight to golf heaven from here.
Okay, and then we've got another a question here. Are there any circumstances where elderly residents are compulsorily required to contribute to sinking funds, otherwise known as capital works funds, for major repairs in older complexes?
There are, and that then again depends on the operator and how they frame that budget.
Right. And that's in your contract as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So that'll be there. But basically, a budget's a standalone item. The contract will say there'll be a budget, but the budget will be framed so that there might be a portion of that budget put away for capital works funds in the future or whatever, or capital maintenance, and the residents will vote on that. Now, they can either vote to approve it or disapprove it, depending on how that, and it's always about how that information is communicated to the residents. Remembering the residents want their village to be livable in 2 and 3 and 5 years' time. So the residents will choose to contribute to that improvement en masse, and they will vote for it, yes or no.
Okay, good response. Now, I did want to highlight again 3 terrific videos, short videos, 7 minutes each, that Roger and the team at Retirement Village Association in New South Wales have produced. They're on the Compass website, and they're highlighted in the housing and accommodation section under resources. Now we're coming to and I'll also include a link to them in the newsletter that I'll send everybody after this event. We're coming close to the end of our hour conversation. So any other questions that people have, pop them in to the Q&A, and we'll endeavour to answer them in the next few minutes. But Roger,
Brett, can I just have a plug for 2 other videos on our website?
Oh, yes.
One is factors to consider before you move into a retirement village.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's these are the things you need to think about. And the second one is understanding your contract. So we've got those 2 videos up on our RVRA website, and I'm happy for you to steal them and use them as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So yes, is there anything else you think we've missed, or any sort of closing statement that you'd like to send to everybody? Because, it's a big decision, and one that people, do want to feel like they're making the right decision for themselves and their family. So yeah, any parting piece of advice?
Yeah, basically, if you're thinking of moving into a retirement village, it's a good move. I've been in one for 10 years. I have no regrets. I've met over 2,500 residents in retirement villages. 98% of them are extremely happy. But choose wisely. Look at your contract. If you're already in a retirement village, go and get your contract out and have a look through it. If you don't understand it, get some professional person to walk you through that. As well, go and knock on your manager's door and say, look, I don't understand this. Could you explain this to me? Because managers don't have much to do. So they'll be very happy for you to go up to there and talk to them about that. If you're thinking of exiting, then, or you want to leave, make sure you understand the terms of that leaving. Some people are leaving with less than they entered with. So
Hmm.
really important to do your sums and ask people to help you.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody will take away different things from today's conversation, and you have this link that will come to you in the next few days. You can go back and listen to our conversation again. But one of the things that has really resonated with me is just the variation that exists from one contract to the other, and how important it is for people to know what's in their contract. And so it is really imperative that people do seek independent financial and legal advice. And that advice can be from a community legal centre, from legal aid, or you can contact the New South Wales Retirement Village Association or the other associations in Australia and ask for their advice on where you might go to seek that advice. Thank you, everybody, today for your terrific questions. And I really want to say a big thank you to you, Roger, for your time and your expertise and knowledge. It has been really valuable. And yes, do sign up to the Compass newsletter because we will be doing more free events on retirement village living, the different aspects involved, and the issues and challenges and opportunities that exist. So thank you all, and I really appreciate your times today. And have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Brett.